Hello, friends. It is great to be with you again on this wonderful Thursday that we have our Family Search webinars, our live webinars. My name is Erin Schurth, and I work with Family Search, and I am here with the wonderful Janalie McBride. We're so excited to learn from her today. If you are here, please tell us so that we know that this live stream is working and that everything is good. I see Judith Schubert from North Carolina. Welcome, Judith. Does anyone else want to let us know where they're calling in from? Or you can just put in the chat that you can hear us and we're all good to go. It's such a great time that we have every week to learn from these experts that we have. Okay, we got a thumbs up. So I think that means we're good. And one thing is, if you're watching live, make sure that you put your questions in the comments so that Janalie can answer them at the end. And Find My Genealogy says, I can hear you great. Thank you so much. You never know with technology. Sometimes it doesn't work great. And then if you're watching the replay, please ask your questions in the chat anyways, because we are doing this around the clock and we can get you answers if we have an answer. So we are excited to learn about finding original records, the real game of hide and seek. And I just want to introduce our wonderful speaker and teacher today, Janalie McBride, who is a United States and Canada research specialist. And she holds a Bachelor of Science in Professional Studies with an associate in family history research from Brigham Young University, Idaho. As I mentioned, she's a United States and Canada research specialist at the Family Search Library, and that's in Salt Lake City, Utah. And she specializes in the United States Southwest region, also DNA and Latter-day Saint records. She has a vast wealth of knowledge for us to take advantage of. So make sure that you ask your questions, and we will get to those. And with that, Janalie, I'm going to leave you to it. Thank you for being here.
Wonderful. Thank you so much and welcome. I'm so excited to teach this webinar today, Finding Original Records, the real game of hide and go seek. And my name again is Janalie McBride, and I'm a US and Canada specialist at the library, and I'm so excited to be here today. So one of my most cherished family history treasures is the scrapbook of Thomas DeWitt Page. This is my husband's grandfather. In 1941, he was serving at Pearl Harbor aboard the USS Maryland. And on the morning of December 7th, as always, he woke up early. And since it was a Sunday, he decided to leave his battleship and rowed ashore in a small boat to spend time with his friends. Well, shortly after he arrived, Pearl Harbor was attacked. The USS Maryland sustained damage, and a torpedo went straight through his bunk. After the attack, Thomas's scrapbook was found floating in the harbor. Though the book suffered some water damage all over the place and through the pages, most of its contents remained intact. So Thomas, he still used this scrapbook to store memories in even after the attack. In the scrapbook, he had pictures and he wrote brief notes. He saved military cards and important documents. And he saved things like this menu for Christmas dinner the year of the attack. Another great treasure in this scrapbook is a page with photos and names or nicknames of the Navy football team that Thomas played on. This scrapbook captures a historical part of our ancestors' life and shows us why we love to find and locate original sources that capture events when they happened with firsthand knowledge. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Our objective today will be to explain what original and derivative records are and the primary and secondary information that they contain. We're also going to discuss the value of using indexes and demonstrate how to find original records online by using indexes, additional online sources, and introduce some various helpful online tools and that can be useful in locating original records. Next, we will learn how to find original records in repositories with helpful tips for on-site research. And at the end of this class, we are actually going to play a little game called Guess the Original. So be prepared to type in the chat. So let's begin by defining original and derivative records and the primary and secondary information that they contain. Thomas W. Jones said, original records are written reports of an action, event, or observation, often but not always, made at the time of the event or soon after. Original records are not based on prior records. So, the three main characteristics of original records are it was created at the time of the event, it was created by someone with firsthand knowledge of the people, places, or events that were recorded, and that it is unaltered from the original form. Okay, so there are several different types of original sources that we have. So you will there's originals, which is basically means that it was the first of its kind and still in its first recorded or uttered form. There are duplicate originals or counterparts, which is a copy officially made at the same time as the original. For example, on the duplicates, you might have a grantor and grantee's copy of a deed that was simultaneously made, or the multiple copies of a census schedule that enumerators were required to make in certain years. We also have clerk's copies or record copies. This is a copy that was made by an official and entered into a clerk's record book. So sometimes a clerk's copy is called a record copy. This is still considered an original due to the care and oversight that was considered when making the copy. And we're going to go over some examples of these if you're not quite sure what these all are. We also have certified copies. So this is an official copy that has an added certification, letting you know that the document was officially prepared. There are photocopies, scans where the original was not altered at all, digital copies, and image copies. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about some of these original records, and then I'm going to show you some examples of them. So original records are most reliable and they're likely to be freer from errors than transcriptions or extracts. Some examples include certificates, like a birth certificate issued by a government office at the time of a child's birth. You have wills. So a will was created and signed by an individual that's detailing their estate distribution. Manuscripts, an author's original draft of a book written in their own hand. Photographs, so a physical photograph taken at a family event. Parish records, like a church ledger recording a baptism. Artifacts, like a soldier's uniform or a scrapbook pulled from a harbor, or the uniform that was worn at a specific battle. You also have oral records, such as a recorded interview with a witness to a historical event. Journals, that is one of my favorites. So like a diary that was written by the traveler on the day that they arrived at a destination, as an example. Microfilm, which is a film reel preserving a newspaper. And digital copies, like a scanned image of a marriage license from an official archives. Okay, now let's look at some examples. And of course, I'm going to start with journals because these are my favorite. So let's look at a few details of these examples. So a journal qualifies as an original source when it is created at the time of an event or soon afterward by an individual who directly experienced or observed the recorded details. That's the official definition to let you know that it's original. However, journals may be a reproduction, or it could be a summary that was authored by someone other than the original writer who did not witness the events. So verifying the journal's origin and reviewing its content closely, this will help assess its reliability. This is a photograph of my fourth great-grandmother. It has been passed down to me in its original condition. I scanned the image without modifying it. So an unaltered photograph in its original form qualifies as an original source. It serves as a first-hand visual record of the subject, reflecting the scene or event as it appeared at the time the photograph was captured. A death certificate, these are considered an original genealogical source because they are official records that are generated at the time of death by authorities, including medical professionals and government agencies. So they offer firsthand documentation of essential details, such as the date and place and cause of death. Now, although the certificate itself is an original source, there is certain information it includes, such as birth details or parents' names, that may be secondary. So, if it was supplied by an individual that was lacking direct knowledge. So, the content of sources, that's going to be addressed later in this presentation. Federal census records are recognized as an original source because they are official government documents that are prepared by census takers during the enumeration process in line with the legal requirements at the time. They provide direct evidence of a household's composition, their residence, and other details that's reported in that specific census year. So while the records themselves are original, some of the information may be secondary. So data such as ages or data such as ages, birthplaces, and relationships, they're typically supplied by a household member who may not have always had the accurate or complete knowledge of the information that they're giving. So most genealogists consider census records an original source, though they acknowledge their imperfections and limitations. For example, since handwritten copies were often producing errors, an error could have happened during the transcription as they were handwriting the copy. So mistakes could arise when the enumerators also collected data. So as a result, while census records are a valuable tool, they should not be used as the sole original source. Okay, we have church records such as baptismal, marriage, and burial entries. These are original sources that give us helpful glimpses into the lives of individuals and families. They're typically written by the clergy or a church official who were there for the events, so the details come straight from their own observation or involvement in the ceremony. A marriage record is regarded as an original source. It provides firsthand information about the marriage or intended marriage and is produced at or near the time of the event. And it documents details supplied by the individuals that are applying for the license. In this instance, the upper portion of the document contains the marriage license, and the lower portion includes the certificate of marriage that is confirming that the marriage actually occurred. Okay, a will, also termed a last will and testament, is a legal document in which an individual or the testator designates the distribution of their property, assets, and possessions following their death. It is rare to locate a will that has the testator's original signature. Most available wills are copies prepared by clerks that are commonly known as court copies or probate records. So these copies are generated as part of the probate process. The legal validation of a will is the probate process. Probate courts or clerks of court retain these documents for record keeping and legal purposes. So a clerk's copy qualifies as an original source. Okay, so we've talked a lot about original. Now let's talk about derivative source. Thomas W. Jones defines derivative source as the derivative records are created from prior records by one transcribing a prior record or part of it by hand, keyboard, or optical character recognition, speech to text, or other technology. Two, abstracting information from it. Three, translating it from one language to another. Or four, reproducing it with alterations. Basically, a simple way to look at it is that a derivative record is derived from an original source. There are several different types of derivative sources. We have indexes, public online family trees, published compilations, digital databases, abstracts, transcriptions, extracts. Derivative sources are considered less acceptable because errors could have occurred in their production. Information might have been left out. They are still important, though. They're still important for your genealogy research, since they do provide clues that will lead you to the original sources. Some examples of derivative records include transcriptions, which is a word or word for word copy of the original record, such as a typed copy of a handwritten will. An abstract, which is a summarized version of the record, such as a marriage index. An extract, such as a selected portion that's copied from the original. An index, which can be a database with lists of names, dates, and locations. There are many more examples of derivative records. So if you're not sure, then just remember a derivative record is derived from an original record. So let's look at some examples. Let's just take a closer look. Find a Grave is a collaborative platform where individuals contribute information and photos voluntarily. There is a combination of original and derivative content, with many contributors providing original photographs of tombstones, but derivative information that's typed up about the photo. For example, this photo only shows the name, date of birth, and date of death. However, the contributor added Chicago, Cook County, Illinois as the place of birth and Salt Lake City, Salt Lake County, Utah as the place of death, with no source for the information. So added information to the photos on Find a Grave, such as biographies and unsourced data, makes this a derivative record. This town record may initially appear to be an original source, but several indicators suggest that it is a derivative record. The book comprises 3 volumes of vital records spanning 133 years, from 1719 to 1852, and it is authored solely by James N. Arnold. It is not likely that Arnold lived for over 133 years and directly documented every birth, marriage, and death in Stafford, Connecticut. Additionally, the uniform and precise handwriting throughout the entire book indicates that it was transcribed rather than recorded at the time of each event. The collection title also gives us some more information, and it confirms that it is a transcription of vital records, not the original register. So this example demonstrates the importance of examining the creation process, the timing, and the authorship of a record. County history books are typically compilations of historical information. They have narratives, biographical sketches, and data about a specific county's history. They are often created by historians, writers, or local historical societies who gather and organize information from various sources. For instance, a county history that's published in 1900 might incorporate data from deeds, correspondence, or oral histories, reflecting events that the author did not personally witness, often spanning decades or centuries prior. An abstract of a will is a condensed summary or extract of key details contained within the original will document. So an abstract of a will is created by an individual or researcher who reviews the original will and selects specific information to include in the summary. The content of the abstract is derived from the original will. So the author is choosing what they think is important. Cemetery records, like this one, which are compiled by the Daughters of the American Revolution, they are aggregating information from existing sources, such as cemetery inscriptions, tombstone readings, or other published records. Okay, so now that we've identified original and derivative records, let's talk about the information that is in these sources. This is what oftentimes gets confusing. You see that you have an original record, so you feel like that all of the information in this original record must be accurate, right? Well, we have primary information and secondary information inside of our original records. So primary information is provided by an eyewitness or a participant in an event, someone with firsthand knowledge. Ideally, this information is recorded at or near the time of the event, but even if it is documented later, it remains primary as long as the source had direct knowledge. Let me give you an example. A mother can provide primary information about the birth of her child. Okay. A doctor attending a dying patient can provide primary information about that person's death. Um, a witness to a car accident can give primary information about the event. While primary information can still be inaccurate or unreliable, its classification as primary does not change. Understanding this helps in evaluating genealogical sources. Now, secondary information, this is provided by individuals who did not witness or experience the event firsthand. While their knowledge may be accurate and reliable, they lack direct firsthand experience. So here's another example. You may know that your birth date is whatever it is. You are confident in its accuracy. However, because you were not mentally capable of witnessing your own birth, your knowledge is secondary information. In contrast, your mother who was present can provide primary information about your birth. So understanding the distinction between primary and secondary information is essential for evaluating the reliability of genealogical records. It would be a mistake to think that just because a record is an original record means that the information in the record is 100% accurate. So to understand the difference, let's take a look at a death certificate. A death certificate contains both primary and secondary information. The blue areas are highlighting the primary information, and the orange areas are highlighting the secondary information. All right, so let's move on to indexes. Indexes are a valuable asset in family history research. Some people see an index and they feel like maybe this is not accurate, maybe there's some issues with it. And yes, that may be true, but they do lead to clues for us to finding original records. There are different types of indexes that you're going to come across in your research. So I'm going to show you some examples of a few of the indexes that you may have already used in your research. So this is called a database index. The title of the collection is the Utah U.S. Select Marriage Index 1887 to 1985. There are no original documents in this collection. When you search for an ancestor, you will see a page like this one. Notice that there is no image to the left that you can click on and view. Researchers may make the mistake of thinking that because this information shows up in what looks like a reputable database from a reputable company like Ancestry.com, this must mean that all the information is accurate. So I found the marriage record. Now I have the document, the date, and the location. So let's move on, right? Well, with indexes, many times the information is inaccurate. However, that is not always the case. And like I said before, there are some wonderful hints and clues inside of these indexes that will help lead to the original record. At the bottom, you can see a certificate number. This number is the certificate number of the actual marriage certificate, the original record. The original record is in a different collection called Utah Salt Lake County Marriage Records, 1887 to 1965. This collection is organized by certificate number, not by date or surname. So if I didn't know the certificate number, I would be randomly searching in this large collection of marriage applications and certificates that span 78 years. Also notice that all the information that is in the original record was not on the index. The certificate number from the index saved me hours of work and it led me straight to the marriage application and certificate. Okay, so sometimes the index or that you come across or the collection that you're looking in has an index at the beginning or the end of the original records. So in this marriage record collection, the index was at the beginning with the names of individuals in alphabetical order. The number next to the name is the page number of the original document. In the same collection, I was able to find the original record and knew the record that I needed was on page 11. Once again, the index provided valuable information that brought me right to the original marriage record. Okay, there are times that you will find a collection that has volumes of only index records and volumes of the original source. The index is not in the same book or microfilm of the original, but it is in the same collection. Names in the index are usually in alphabetical or date order. Once you find the individual that you're looking for, you'll then be directed to the volume and page that the original can be located on. In this case, the original record is in volume 5, page 10. After going to the microfilm of volume 5, I went to page 10, which is where the original deed record was found. Now, sometimes you're going to come across an indexing system that is a little difficult. And sometimes they're so complex that they require guides or keys or tables in order to decipher how did they organize this collection. So take, for example, the Campbell Index. Names are arranged alphabetically by initial letter of the given name along with the initial letter of the surname. For example, if I am looking for Amelia Johns, I would first go to the J's, since that is the first letter of the surname. Then look for the letter A, representing the first letter of her first name. The number 158 is in the box under the letter A. Getting to page 158, I find Amelia Johns with information about her will that can help me find the original record. There are many different index systems, so the best way to learn more about these index systems is to visit the FamilySearch Wiki and search for the Wiki page titled United States Index Systems. And we have a list of some of the main index systems that were used with some instructions on how to use them. So we've discussed the value of indexes and showed you how to find the original records through an index. Now let's discuss some other ways that you can find original records online. Okay. Genealogy databases on FamilySearch.org and other industry friends like Ancestry.com use indexes or name searchable formats. Many of these indexes have the image of the original record conveniently attached. Yay! Always examine the image, always, for any additional details not included in indexes or extracted out of the original. Not only does the original record have more information, but it also may show you personal information, such as your ancestor's signature or physical description. There are many original records that you can find at FamilySearch.org. If you click on Search, some of the main options for finding originals are records, images, and the catalog. Records are historical records that are all indexed, some of them with originals. Images have original and derivative images, but they are not indexed. And the catalog will lead you to collections of both types. When you go to FamilySearch Historical Records page, there are 3 ways that you can search. You can search by name, dates, and family information. You can also search by a collection title, so you could just say Alaska Birth Records. You can also search by a place and see what kinds of records are available in that area. The FamilySearch catalog has 8 different ways to search for original records. You can search by the place, the surname, the title, the author, the subject, or the keyword. And you can search by the call number and the film, microfiche, or digital DGS number. FamilySearch Images allows you to see images of original documents that have recently been scanned. Some of these images have already been cataloged, so you may have seen them from collections that you looked in from the catalog. But many of the images are brand new images that have not yet been cataloged or indexed, which means these images would not show up in the other searches that you've done and could be a gold mine. You can browse images by place on the main page, or you can click on more options to browse by the event date, record type, and much more. Full text search at FamilySearch has been an extremely valuable tool for finding original records. Full text search is an exciting new way to find historical records that have not been indexed yet. Full text search is an AI tool and uses technology that reads the text on the images. So to get to this new feature, look for FamilySearch Labs on your homepage and click on View Experiments. Then click on the lab experience called Expand Your Search with Full Text. There are other experiments that were released on this page that you'll want to check out another time. There are some research tips on the homepage that will help you find the documents that you're looking for. After you enter in your search terms, you can narrow down your search with different filters like the date and the place or even the collection. When you find the original document that you're looking for, you can download the image. You can have an image with the transcription. You will see a transcription on the side. You can attach the image to the tree, the family member that you were looking for. It is a wonderful, wonderful tool. If you have not tried it, I highly suggest that you go play in it and just do some searching and see what you're going to find. Ancestry.com is one of the largest online genealogy platforms, providing access to billions of historical records, including census, birth, marriage, death, military files, immigration documents, and much, much more. Ancestry.com has many collections that are browsable as well as indexes. You can go straight to the image as well. MyHeritage is another great resource for finding original records online. Like Ancestry.com, the majority of their collections are indexed with the ability to browse images in the collections that you're looking in. Okay, archives exist to gather, preserve, and make historical materials available. Items often including manuscripts and photographs, letters, books, diaries, journals, maps, and physical objects and artifacts are at archives. So these records can be published or unpublished, and they come in many types and formats. We have government archives that have materials that are relating to government and the records that they create, including federal, national, state, county, city, town, etc. There are religious archives that have material relating to the traditions or institutions of a faith, denomination, or individual place of worship. Colleges and universities may accept and preserve materials pertaining to genealogy of a group or groups of people. Many of them hold special collections of original records for individuals, families, institutions, corporations, and governments. Historical societies are dedicated to preserving, collecting, and researching and interpreting historical information and artifacts that's usually concentrated on a specific geographic region. Genealogical societies are dedicated to preserving, collecting, and assisting others in finding genealogical information, often concentrated on a specific area, ethnicity, or culture. Corporate archives manage and preserve records of a business's history, activities, and policies. The FamilySearch Wiki is an excellent source for finding genealogical information, and in this case, it's a great tool for finding archives and repositories in the area that you're researching. On most of the location pages, whether it is at a state level or a county level, you will see an area that says Archives and Libraries. On the United States Archive page, there's a list of multiple archives and libraries that hold original records at a federal level or regional level. The National Archives is home to many original federal records. Some of their records have been digitized and made available for you to see online. So if you click on digitized records, you'll be taken to the National Archives website page that gives you a list of records that they're currently digitizing. Many of these records are original records. In the column titled NARA Completion Status, you can see if the collection has been digitized, or if it's partially completed or not yet started. You can also see who has the copies of this digitized record, and a link is provided so that you can go directly to the record. Each state also has their own archive, and many of them have digitized some of their records. If you visit the state archive website, you can look through their online collections or be given instructions on how to order records that are not online. If you're not sure how to find the state archive, you can just go to a state page on FamilySearch Wiki and then go to Libraries and Archives, or simply Google the state that you're researching in and add archive after the state. For example, if you're researching in Ohio, then Google Ohio State Archives, and many counties will pop up and your state will pop up. Many counties also have their own archives, so it might be a little confusing to understand the difference. You need to understand the jurisdiction of the record that you're looking for so that you can know which archive might be holding that record. Some of the collections that you can find online at an archive, it may be a collection that has been shared with FamilySearch and Ancestry or MyHeritage or other industry friends, but oftentimes the collection at the archive hasn't been shared and can only be viewed through them. So it is worth your time to search their website to see what you can discover. Genealogical societies, again, are dedicated to preserving and collecting and helping us find genealogical information. So American Ancestors, which is managed and ran by the New England Historic Genealogical Society, has many books, ebooks, manuscripts, microfilms that are available that have original records. There may be a learning curve in how to search the digital catalogs of each genealogical society website, but they usually make it user-friendly and easy to figure out. Another great source is the Daughters of the American Revolution website. Those who join the Daughters of the American Revolution need to prove their direct lineage to a revolutionary soldier with original documents. By clicking on the GRS tab, which stands for the Genealogical Research System, you can search for an ancestor that may have served in the Revolutionary War. If there are supporting documents available, the DAR allows you to order them and download them immediately. I found one of my fifth great grandparents on their website and saw that there were supporting documents that were sent in and available to be ordered. Once I paid the fee, I was able to download 62 pages of supporting documents with several original records inside the packet. So you never know what was sent in when the individual was proving lineage. But this is a great way to find original records on your ancestor without needing to hunt them down. Let's talk about what you need to know when you visit an archive or a library in person, if the records that you're looking for cannot be viewed online. So first you want to check to determine what records are available online. Do your homework. You don't want to spend time looking at records on site that you can be viewing at home. And then prepare your research. Create a research plan that contains one or more research goals and gather and organize what you already know. Check to determine where the records are housed. Many courthouses are moving their older records to off-site storage facilities. So check with the facility to determine if the record you want is available at the facility or if the record will need to be brought in from the off-site facility. If it will cost you to bring the record in, then you need to be ready and prepared to pay for copies as well. Check the facility's days and hours. Some may offer special visiting hours. Make sure that you check to see if you need to make an appointment, if appointments are available. Each facility is different. They have different rules. So before you make your trip, learn the rules and be prepared. Make your travel plans, including arriving, places to stay, rental cars, food, and other extra expenses that you may not be aware of. There are multiple repositories that house original records, but the main ones to consider are archives, libraries, genealogical societies, churches, courthouses, and cemeteries. Some of the possible original records that you will find on site are cemetery and burial records, military records, family Bibles, church records, newspapers, photographs, probate records, slave records, town histories, and vital records. Here's another way to get original records that are not online, and it is by ordering a copy of the record. The National Archive allows you to order a copy of some of their records. If you visit eservices.archive.gov to order the records, and you can get your questions answered, they will give you the information on how to get this record to you. Oftentimes, there's going to be a fee, but not always. ArchiveGrid is a website that allows you to find repositories in the area that you're researching. So their website represents over 1,400 archival institutions to help researchers look for primary source materials that are in archive libraries, museums, and historical societies. If you click on the map and find the location that you're researching in, a list of repositories will populate. You can also actually search by the person's name or events. I chose to search by name and I put in the last name Holdaway. The search results populated 2 biographies for my 3rd great grandparents with information about the repository that has the record and how to contact them. Another resource that can help you locate on-site records is WorldCat.org. This website is similar to ArchiveGrid. It allows you to search for collections that may be online, but also records that can only be viewed on-site. Putting in the name or the surname Holdaway, I was able to see 2 biographies for my 3rd great-grandmother. One of them I found on ArchiveGrid as well. The other one was a biographical sketch that can be viewed for free online. When I clicked on the one that needs to be researched on site, I can see that it is an on-site only manuscript and there is 1 copy. I can also see which repository has it and information about the repository. So doing this kind of research ahead of time will help you to use your time wisely as you travel to the repository with the original records that you'd like to get access to. Okay, so we have learned a lot about original documents. Now let's play a little game and see how much you learned. I'm going to show you some documents and ask you if the document is an original or a derivative. Go ahead and type in the chat. I'm going to give you a minute to type, and then I am going to give you the answer. All right? Okay, what kind of source is this? Is this an original or is this a derivative? This is an original record. This is a voter registration card from Madison County, Alabama in 1940. So voter registration cards are typically filled out by the individual registering to vote or with the assistance of a registrar at the time of the registration. Okay, so let's keep going. What kind of source is this? Is this an original or a derivative? If you said original, you are right. This is the 1890 United States Veterans Schedule, or in other words, a military census. So this document is an original record. The document is dated and it was enumerated on June of 1890 as part of the 11th census of the United States. It records information about surviving soldiers and sailors, Marines, and widows of Civil War veterans at that time. So this document was created by someone with firsthand knowledge, the census enumerator collecting data directly from veterans or their widows, and appears to be unaltered from its original handwritten form. Okay, what kind of source is this? Is this an original or a derivative? It's a derivative source. This is the Social Security Death Index. The SSDI entry for Early Jones records his death date as October of 1980. However, the SSDI itself is not a record created at the time of Early Jones's death. Instead, it's a database that was compiled by the United States Social Security Administration based on reports of deaths that were submitted to the SSA, often after the event occurred. So some of the ways that they received the information was through death certificates, family reports, doctors, and other notifications. The SSDI entry is therefore not created at the time of the event, but is instead compiled later. What kind of source is this? Is this an original or a derivative? This is an original record. This is a first-hand document created at the time of the event that it records. It is a record created by witnesses providing sworn testimony before a probate judge. The witness signed the document and the judge certified their statements. Okay, how about this one? Is this one an original or a derivative? This is an original record. So this is a passenger list that was created by immigration officials working at ports, collecting information from the passengers as they arrived at the United States. How about this one? What kind of source is this? Is this an original or a derivative? This is a derivative record. This is a book of transcriptions of vital records from Stafford, Connecticut, which means James N. Arnold, the author of this book, reviewed original birth, marriage, and death records and then created a written copy of the record. Okay, how about this one? What kind of source is this? Is this one an original or a derivative? This is a derivative record. This is a biographical sketch of Lucinda Hawes compiled from various sources rather than an original record created at the time that the events describe. This type of biographical sketch is usually derived from family records and other historical documents. How about this one? What kind of source is this one? Is this one original or derivative? This is an original record. This is one of my favorite original records because I love how much this person paid for their time in their hospital. This is a record that was created by hospital administrative staff that's responsible for admitting patients and maintaining hospital records. And if you notice really closely, you can see that their rate of pay, their rate per week was charity. Pretty awesome. How about this one? What kind of source is this? Is this an original or a derivative? Getting a little tricky. This is both. This is mostly a derivative source, which is why I made the sign for derivative a little bigger. This is a photo and small sketch from a book about prominent men in a community, so it depends on how it was created. The photo could be an original that was scanned and not altered in any way, but we aren't sure about the background of this one. The information under the photo is compiled from other published sources. Okay, so today we explained the difference between original and derivative records, as well as the primary and secondary information that they contain. We also discussed the value of using indexes and demonstrated how to find original records online using indexes and additional online sources. And then we introduced various helpful tools for locating original records and learned how to find them in repositories with some tips for on-site research. And then concluded the class with our fun game of original and derivative. So I think we have some time that we can now turn some time over for some questions.
Thank you so much, Janalie. That was a wealth of knowledge. I learned so much.
Awesome.
Oh, yes, and you explained everything so well. Right now, we don't have any questions, but I wanna put it out to those that are watching us to ask away if you have questions for Janalie. I also put in the comments a link to the rootstock.org session page where you can actually get the syllabus. So if you'd like to download the syllabus, the link is in the comments for you to be able to do so. So we can wait for a minute for these questions. I found the last exercise that you did to guess the original or derivative so interesting, and I think that that's something that's a hard thing to do unless you know what to look
Mhm.
for. That's really
It's so true.
important.
Yeah, you definitely gotta look close. You've definitely got to examine, where did this come from? Who created this, and where did this source come from? Because it can get a little tricky.
Yeah, it sure can. It sure can, especially when they're older documents and it's hard to read or to
Mhm.
detail.
Yep.
Oh, that's great. Okay, we have a question from Kimberly Ann on Facebook. Would a yearbook be derivative or direct?
Well, the picture inside of a yearbook is an original picture because it's usually taken for the yearbook, for the purpose of the yearbook. So you're seeing what that person looked like on that day of photos at the time. And it is an original record. It even is, I would even analyze that as all the way primary information, because the information you're getting is, where did this person go to school? When did this person go to school? However, the person that's compiling the yearbook, they weren't technically an eyewitness of that person going to school. So it's a little iffy, but you do know that that individual did attend that school in order to be able to be in this yearbook. So it does give you an original photo, and it gives you some primary information about the school that they attended.
Excellent. Thank you so much for answering that. Are there any other questions from those viewing today? As a reminder, if you're watching the replay, continue to put your questions in the comments and we will be monitoring them so that we can get you answers. If you also didn't know, the Family Search Library offers free consultations to anyone that needs help with their family history. And so you can go to the Family Search Library page on I'll put it in the chat actually, because I'm sure there's a URL that's more difficult to just say. And you can request a free consultation and schedule that. We have experts from all over the world that can help you and in many, many languages. So don't let that hold you back from getting a free consultation. Excellent. Well, thank you again so much for coming. Thank you everyone for being here. As a reminder, we have a webinar next Thursday at the same time, 10 o'clock Mountain Time in the morning, 10 a.m. And this will be finding records using the resources on Family Search. We've enjoyed a wonderful month of webinars all about records and being able to find what you need on Family Search. So make sure that you watch the past webinars and join us next Thursday. Thank you so much, Janalie. And
Wonderful. Thank you.
thank you.